Well, good morning, everybody. I think I recognise a couple of names from one of the previous sessions that I've done with Smartlight recently, and definitely some new faces. Always good to have a mix. So we are going to look at an active email marketing strategy today, and I'm going to just start off as Ash asked me to say just a little bit about me. So my background's both as a qualified trainer and a business advisor, sort of combine those two roles, and have done for years. So doing lots of training, but also hands-on advice, linked primarily around digital marketing, and growth of organizations. So I've been doing digital marketing stuff for 11, 12 years. And since 2013 as my own business. And just one of the headlines there is I've supported over 100 charities for Lloyds Bank Foundation. So currently working with 7 or 8 charities for them, carry on that work. So, and there's me in when we were allowed out, kind of visiting with a charity in Manchester, working on their digital strategy. So you know what I look like as well as on the camera there. Right, okay. So I'm going to whistle through a few things today. And I should also say that email marketing's been a key aspect of my own career. So whether it's recruiting learners to a management program, or we managed to get up to 300. Oh, somebody's got a speaker on. Or filling like 200 delegate events. I've regularly used email marketing myself. So I'm not going to tell you anything that I don't do myself. It's all based on experience. But really, I'm going to whistle through 3 or 4 things here. Just kind of might be provocative to start with, but actually, why bother with email marketing? Why would you do it? Because some people are skeptical, some people not doing it, and I'm going to try and dispel some of those misunderstandings or reluctances. I'm going to look at some golden rules in terms of what good email marketing looks like. I'm going to touch on the law as it stands, because there is a bit of legal background in this area, and that's important. I'll give you a basic guide on that, and finish with just flagging up that there's some good metrics to be had, and then we'll have hopefully a good active Q&A session. We can pick up any of the themes. So let's get in. So firstly, why bother with this thing called email marketing? Because I'm sure some of you aren't doing it. I always find that, or you've dabbled, or you're not active with it. So first thing to say is it's very targeted. It is a great way, a great method to actually keep your audience informed, engaged. Linked to that, it is one of the only mechanisms where you can go direct to people. So it's quite unlike social media and your website, where people are often, have to search you out. With an email, it goes direct into their inbox. All they need to do is to open it and read it. Now, we'll come back to kind of increasing the chances of opening and reading. But it's a much more direct method than other channels. So it's also, in my experience, very strong in getting people to buy things. Because even if you're a charity, you're often selling a service that you need people to buy in some sense. They need to sign up or engage with. It's also a good way of actually sometimes people buying something else. So you might be promoting something, but the fact that you've emailed them actually is, actually, I might want to buy something else. And it's that kind of reminder that you exist and on what you're doing. And that kind of led to that. It's very much a good generator of leads, by the fact, if you're using some software, we'll come back to that in a little moment, that it does give you straight away, actually instantly, you know who's actually opening the message, and you know who's actually clicking through, say, to your website. So you've got those very kind of live, kind of instant feeds on who's actually engaging with your content. Again, you don't get that unless somebody comments on a social media post. You don't get that with social media. So it's giving you that intelligence at your fingertips to act, know who's actually interested in something that you're promoting. It's also very good source of getting people to look at your website or your landing page. From my experience, it's got a better conversion rate than social media for doing that. So when I've done events, 80-90% of bookings come from email. It's a small number come from social, actually. Just one example, but that, selling courses as well is my experience. The email has a much better conversion rate. So it does regularly outperform, and the metrics can highlight that. So what I mean by that is when you're looking at it, when you're doing a campaign where you're using email marketing and social and other things, you can get all the figures, all the metrics we call. And there's a little plug. There's a session next week on metrics where we're kind of looking at that in a bit more detail. But you can very much compare the traffic. So look at the number of people seeing you on Facebook or Twitter, the number of people looking at your email, and the number of people visiting your website, and you can kind of make a value judgment in terms of actually what's working and where people are coming from. And this last point, and I see this all the time. I've just had it with a client who started email marketing, is just that simple reminder in the inbox that you still exist and you're still active. And I think, Hafsha was saying, there's a good example that you've worked all the way through lockdown, through the pandemic, and actually, doing that marketing out, is that helpful reminder that you actually still here, you're still here for service. And my client is actually, an example I'm drawing on, is a web designer who wasn't doing email marketing, but the first email he sent out, actually, people said, "Oh yeah, I actually need some updates on my website," and then somebody says, "Can you do email marketing for me?" So just from the very first message, you got 2 jobs. The next was the same. So he wasn't selling email marketing, but people say, "Oh, I really like this. Can you do it for us?" So it's often that tangential that you get from the fact is something lands in the inbox and it looks good. We'll come back to that about it looking good. So so that's a starter for why bother. But that's just, let's look at some data here. If you're on one of the sessions, I did use this in the mix. This is from a big study, ongoing year on year. It's called Digital 2021. So we're just about to get 2022. It's been going about 7 or 8 years. Really, really good. If you haven't looked at it and you're interested, have a look at it. There is a massive information. So I think the core data set is about 300 slides like this. It goes into all sorts of internet use, social, web use, e-commerce, everything, and then has country reports as well. So I currently working with a guy who's come from Pakistan to set up a business in the UK to help Pakistan companies sell into the UK. And we've been looking at the data, the country report for Pakistan, quite different in terms of the trends that are there in terms of compared to the UK, in terms of how people use the net, what social they use, and this kind of thing. So great source of information. This slide kind of highlights what I would say is the current mix of digital marketing. I'm not going to go all the way through it. You can see right at the top, the website is there out in front. Now, this is measuring from a recent survey of internet users, how they stay in touch with an organization, how they stay in touch with a brand. Yeah, so that's the context for this slide. But look there, email is there in the mix, number 4. There's not a lot in it in terms of using social media, watching a video, they're all hovering there at 20+%. So 1 in 5. In the last month, this study was done, global study. So that may be surprising to some people. People think, oh, it's going to be social media, it's going to be Facebook, it's going to be Instagram. Well, it's there, but do you know what? Email's hot on the heels here, hot on the heels of how people are staying in touch. So it's some food for thought for you. If you're not doing email marketing, you're limiting yourself straight away, because if you're putting all your effort into social, or you're just relying on a website, you're missing out. A bit like, there's video in the mix here. This isn't about video, but you've got to think of this mix of marketing, because different people use different things in terms of what they're looking to engage with you. So that's not me saying it. This is the data from a big study that's telling us this. Really important. Let's look at a few trends as well here, because I think that not only is it big, it is growing. So I know some of you are in the charity sector, and that I'm drawing some of this data from there. But the same applies in the business sector. So let's have a look here. So for the first time in years of a study, and this is called Global Trends in Giving. Some of you might have heard this, Global Trends in Giving report. The 2020 report flags this up, that email has taken over from social in terms of what inspires people to give money to a charity. This is key. Again, tie it in with the last slide. Social, in my opinion, is sliding. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons is, there's a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is, from a user point of view, the algorithms on social limit what you get to shown to your audience. So we've all experienced this. You put stuff out on Facebook, hardly anybody sees it. It's a luck of the draw where the algorithm's going to show it. Actually, with an email, all right, there's some caveats, but actually it's more likely that your subscriber is going to see that email if you do it right. They're far more likely in terms of social. And that's before we get onto all the kind of toxic stuff on social around hate and all that. It's putting people off. I think there's a number of factors here. This might be surprising people, some of this. So people, a third of people say an email is the most inspiring to give. Same study, a third. This is growing year on year, by the way, these trends. The money raised here almost doubled year on year. So in 2021, we're up to £56 for every 1,000 emails. Nearly doubled in a year. Well, is it the pandemic effect of lots of stuff going online? Maybe, but it's not going to go backwards in my view. The open rate, this is from another big study called M&R Benchmarks report 2021. The open rate's going up. That's quite a big jump. 5% in a year. So more people opening email. What's this telling us? And then the click rate. All right, you might say, well, it's not massive, but the point is, this is going up. More people are opening and more people are clicking. More people are being inspired by email. There's a lot going on here. I'm yet to find a negative on email. Yeah. Important thing here. This is HubSpot reporting it. We're getting up to 50% is now mobile. Social's virtually a whole 100% mobile, but email is catching up, and websites. Everything's going mobile. So it's an important how you are framing your strategy, what your content looks like. Really important. Okay. So that's all the positive stuff. I'm not going to be negative here at all. But we do need to be clear that email marketing isn't going to deliver all of what you need. I'm not saying that. I'm not for 1 minute saying don't do social. Far from it. Social definitely has a role to expand your audience. Most definitely, particularly if you're using some paid search. Highly recommend it. Particularly Facebook ads, very cost effective. If you're not doing them, do them. Yeah, simple. If you're in the middle there, the SEO, search engine optimization, we saw this in the data there a few slides ago. The role of the website is key, both on people finding you and staying in touch with you. So how your site is prepared, the content and the technical SEO stuff is important. You know, how people find you on Google. Both those things help you expand, social and web. But what email does is help you convert. It's not going to help you find people, but it's going to help you stay in touch, as we've seen in the data there in the global study. And there's trends. We can see there's a growing role, a big role and a growing role. But think about, don't worry about the detail here on this. We can send the slides out. Some people have seen this before, but the message here is, again, email has a role. It's a touch point amongst others. Yeah. You know, there's other things here, search, display screens in your premises, you know, some people returning to kind of in face-to-face. There's all sorts of touch points to have, but email does need to be one. I'm going to say that it does need to be one of your touch points. So if you're not using it, you really need to think about, you know, developing it. You know, could it be a loyalty program, you know, that you kind of instigate through email, something exclusive perhaps, you know, as well as staying in touch in terms of regular updates. You know, when we say regular, well, that depends on your capacity. Could be weekly, could be monthly, probably not less than that. That's the kind of level, you know, you can be more active than that. You're not going to put people off if the message is strong. Okay, so the heart of it, and which is doing it well. So the good practice. Now, I'm going to for this slide actually want to be interactive. So I do want people to put their mics on and their cameras on if they can respond to the question. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring up. This is a very recent email from a client of mine. Their work, not mine, but somebody that I've been working with. So there's an art and science to good email marketing. So what I'm looking for you is if you can spot what the good practice here is. And there's actually six aspects to this that are good practice. So I'm kind of looking for anybody to, you know, can you spot it? Speak up. Anybody?
Right, we've got 6 in there, folks. Come on, we can't let the team down.
Some of them are more obvious than others. There's a couple that are tricky. I'm being tough here, but I'm being playful with you. You know, okay. What can you spot here?
Oh, sorry, go for it, Andrea.
Hi, I would say it's a good afternoon, Jonathan. It's quite personal. It's like he's speaking to you directly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, that's definitely one of them. So he's using some software here. This happens to be MailChimp to talk to a list. So that this message has gone to hundreds of people, including me. So yeah, so it'll say good afternoon. I saw the draft of it. So it says good afternoon, first name. Yeah. So it's integrating with a database in MailChimp. So everybody gets the personalized, but you're absolutely spot on. You can also put personalization into a subject line. And we know that kind of can increase open rates. But yes, I get that. There's some effort here. I mean, I know it's automated, but actually there's some thought. It's kind of warmer. Yeah, spot on, Andrew. That's one of them. I've given away one of the others when I was speaking there, if people were listening.
I can see another one, I think. He's put climate change, so it just tells you what the email's about. Okay.
Yeah, you're along the right lines. one of them is short, punchy text.
Yeah.
So this is the intro. But what an email to work, actually, all the experts tell us no more than 10 lines of text on an email. Yeah. So, but you can break that up into kind of specific stories if you wish. My experience with newsletters is if you've got an established one, that's fine. But trying to get one off the ground actually is a lot of work. And in my experience, people often just look at the first story. They don't go all the way through. So one issue, short, punchy, as you're putting it, it's very clear, what this is about. Very clear, carefully crafted, short and punchy. Yeah. Come on, don't let Andrea kind of pick all these out.
No.
Come on, somebody else speak up here.
Jonathan, we're going to go to Michael next. Michael, have you got a comment that you want to make about this? We've got 2 now, 2 down, 4 left to go. Come on.
All it is the incorporation of visuals as well. It's not just the no offense, but it's not just the boredom of just words, but actually there's a visual picture to capture the eye and the imagination.
Absolutely, that's definitely one of them, Michael. No offense taken. I'm very much an image person. Come on, I mean, I've got the jumper on. Yeah, you know this image, but it's in all seriousness. For a good email marketing, you need at least one image. I say at least one. Don't go overboard, but you definitely need one. And again, carefully selected on this example, eye-catching. It's with the theme. You kind of know this is going to. You're feeling nature and ecological, aren't you, straight away? So yeah, spot on, Michael. Thanks. That's we're 3 down now. 3 more to go.
I have one idea. I quite like the use of the really positive words actually in that opening. So immediately I'm sort of drawn to it because I like the positivity of it. So immediately I'm starting to feel optimism. I'm thinking, I must be determined. I must have some determination.
That's so interesting. I think you've kind of found number 7. I get you. I mean, in all marketing, I find actually, even with campaigning work that charities do, that kind of constructive stuff always wins out over the negative. So I think you're absolutely spot on, Afsha, but it's number 7, that.
Number 7.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got a couple more then. Ruth, come on, help us out here, please.
Thinking the by design really stands out. So the name of the organisation in the image, it jumps out at you.
Yeah.
Even subliminally, I think.
Yeah. I mean, interestingly, Ruth, as you might spot here, the designer is Ben Yates, but the name of the company is an interesting play. So you could think by design rather than BY design. It's quite. So sometimes he presents it in 2 different colours, by and design. So
that's how I read it, as by design.
Yeah. It's not one of the specifically, Ruth, but I think it contributes to that good quality image. I think I'm going to say that's another vote for that. Interesting, but you are right.
Lovely, thank you. And we're going to go back to Michael.
Go on, Michael.
With the strapline, because it's short and punchy and also incorporates buzzwords, so carbon neutral is very topical. So definitely, I feel that would kind of capture my attention.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, spot on. A short, punchy subject line is absolutely key, because if you think about how you receive email, this is what comes into your inbox. The actual subject line is very key to whether somebody opens or not. So the context here is Ben's been doing carbon neutral for a while. So this is like carbon neutral hosting. It's quite interesting. But we've been working on the strategy, and I've encouraged him to promote this more actively. So he's launched a new website and is now promoting it. But he's been doing it a while, but we've kind of, come on, let's do it. It's a real thing. He's got clients on this program already. So, it's positive. In fact, this is an edit. I edited the subject line when I suggested this. It was a little bit too negative before. So interesting, you've picked that up. This is very positive, but the short 3 to 5 words it is what you need. If you think any more, it starts to lose its meaning. And what I often find is people put the meaning at the end. Well, people aren't going to see that. You just need those key in the inbox to whether people open it. There's another one that sits with that determines whether somebody opens or not, which is one of the ones we haven't got. Anybody?
Brilliant. We've got Jenny who wants to put forward a thought, please.
Yeah, I was going to say that the from name is from his personal name, so it's his name. It's not his by design. It is in there, but his name is first, so you see it as a person sending the email and not a company, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, Jenny. Spot on. Whether an email from a known and a real sender has a massive impact in terms of whether somebody opens the message or not. So that and the subject line are the key determinants whether somebody opens your message. Really key. And if we think of Smartlight, and a lot of you know Salim and Hafsha, if there's people that know Hafsha, the email shouldn't come from Salim, because they don't know, and vice versa. It's that personal touch. People buy off people, and in person and day-to-day life, and engage with people in communities on that way, and that personal approach, a bit like the good afternoon, Jonathan, absolutely spot on. So you need to think about both these things, the who's sending it out. Even if you're using software, you can differentiate each time you send a message, it can be from somebody different. And the subject line needs to be, don't repeat them. Don't do latest news or this month's news. Think about it. Boring. People are just like, oh no. You've got to think, what's this email about? And if you can't think, well, it's not about anything, don't send the email. Simply, if you haven't got anything to say, don't send it. But I know lots of you have loads to say. So, but really think about it and, make it very short and interesting. These 2 factors will determine whether somebody opens or not. Big influence. So I think the only one that's left, and to be fair, it is harder to spot. But I've referenced it.
Jonathan, before you tell us, I know Jenny's got her hand up, and I'm wondering if Jenny might have the last one.
Go on, Jenny.
Oh no, sorry, I put my hand up for the one.
That's a legacy hand.
Said.
Okay,
sorry.
Thank you. All right, Jonathan, put us out of our misery.
Okay, well, it is tough, and you're probably grown, but the fact is, what sits behind this is email marketing software. So it's not Gmail, it's not Outlook. Do not use those to send email marketing for all sorts of reasons. You risk becoming labeled as a spammer by those email providers if you're mass mailing. Don't be like somebody recently who put into the copy field 100 people, and then people were going mad, like, why am I on this? Why have you done this? And it was like ping, 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 and we all kind of, well, hate's a strong word, but we didn't like that person after about an hour. It's actually also potentially a breach of data protection doing that. All sorts of things why you wouldn't do that. So this message uses MailChimp to construct it, but it's not the only one. There's other good ones, and other good ones, Constant Contact. I've used that as well. There's one called .mailer. They all do very similar things. They help you manage your mailing list. They help you do design very easily. Something we call like drag and drop. Some people might be familiar with. So you dragging an image in and dropping it in. Very easy edit. Helps you construct things. MailChimp helps you score the subject line words. It will give you a star rating out of 5, how positive each of the words are based on all of their data. That's really useful. So and it'll help you personalize. It'll help you do all of the things I've highlighted here. Really a godsend, and it from free. You don't have to be paying straight away. You can kind of get going with these platforms without paying money, which we all like, of course. Well, thanks for your interaction. That was good fun. That worked really well. And hopefully it helped you kind of really think through the key issues on email marketing. So let's move on a little bit more. And to say that was the design side of email, but in terms of getting people signed up on your list is important. So you need to be proactive with that. So here's the tie-in with that email. Just so on Ben's site here, very proactive sign up. So people that get in the email already will know, but this is now on the web. So for people that aren't on the main list yet, a very prominent sign up in terms of keep me in touch. Have a look at the sites, and you can pick that up. So the site's optimized, search engine optimization. People will look around carbon neutral hosting, and then they'll get this kind of prominent. Do you want to stay in touch? You need to think about this very proactively, not just in terms of websites where you want a prominent sign up box or a pop-up. Now, I was in the camp of I'm not keen on pop-ups, but I've been presented with data where somebody's used one who was also reluctant and increased the sign-ups by 40% in the first month. Hard to ignore that, actually. It's very enticing. So, it's a bit like ads on social. People don't like them, or ads on Google. Yes, you might not like them, but part of your prejudices, actually, a lot of people do, and a lot of people use these things. But in terms of sign up, think about, if you're doing online ordering or online sign up to courses or anything like that, are you asking people whether they like to be on a mailing list? You could entice them by saying, we're going to latest news, offers, this kind of thing. Are you asking? I had a client recently doing great sales of stuff, but they're not asking, and they've no sign up from all the sales that they've done. How about when people visit you on site, to your premises? Have you got a process for asking them to sign up? I'm not saying right through the door, but if you go to some retailers, and Holland & Barrett's one that strikes me, they always ask, are you on the mailing list? Would you like to be? Always, without fail. And they do it in quite a nice, soft, skillful way. Do you want the offers? Do you want the latest news? And you think, well, yeah, why not? Are you, when you finish supporting somebody, if that's what you're doing in terms of service provision, are you checking? Do you want to be on the mailing list for more courses? Are you converting business cards if you're going to events again? Are you getting people and putting them on a mailing list, etc., etc.? You've got to be proactive to build a list. It will pay great dividends if you can see, the direct nature of email and following the good practice. It all stacks up. Okay. So there is a little bit of legal framework here. I'm not going to go into all the technicals. I know what they are if anybody wants to ask, but something to highlight here, that there are legal requirements, and there is a regulator called the ICO, which is the Information Commissioner's Office, and they do. I'm not doing the scare thing, but I was looking through the site yesterday and seeing some of the fines they give out to breaches of data protection. Tell you what, some of those are substantial, including one to a charity of £10,000 recently for misuse of data. So look at their website. Apologies if this is too small in your display, but this is direct from the ICO, a screenshot of their guidance there, and you can see, hopefully you might be able to see, there's a line on email stroke text. So what does the law say? Well, there's 3 points here. Essentially, individual consumers and I'm being specific here, individual consumers, people, must have given their consent to receive marketing. Okay, that's a really important point. So any individual that buys a service or uses a service or a product from you, you need their active consent to receive marketing. That's the kind of the golden rule here. However, this is where the law gets interesting. There is a but, and the but is if you've got a very similar product to offer to a previous customer, you can do that. That isn't breaching the law, as long as you give them the option to opt out. Okay, so that's important caveat. The third and final one is interesting. This is where some people get caught up, but the law does not apply to business corporate bodies. So other organizations you can put on your mailing list. Yes, people can opt out. It's good practice to offer them that, but you're not breaching the law by mailing them. Interesting. People often a bit, oh, I don't want to do it because no, individual consumers, yes. Organizations, no. So simply, two things: get consent. This is good practice, and provide an opt-out. Now, any of the email marketing software platforms help you do that. So when you upload in a list, they'll ask you if you've got consent, and all the messages have an auto opt-out. So you're covered if you're using Constant Contact, MailChimp, anything like that. Okay. This is kind of short and to the point. But with all digital marketing, there's metrics, and there's two to look at here in terms of mailing. This is a screenshot from MailChimp, but they're all much of a muchness. So there's two things to look at. The opens, so that's what's the open rate, what's the eyes on, the views, and you can see on this example in the middle left, 53%, 53.8%, very good. Now, there's a word of warning with here. This is just an indicator, okay? Because the way that email platforms like Outlook and Gmail handle emails can vary by the user's settings. So sometimes it includes previews. So there's a caveat here that all the opens aren't necessarily opens. Okay, important to make that point. But generally, anything over 25% is very good. That's a good result. So don't be disappointed if you're hitting 30, 35%. That's okay. Clicks is the kind of hard one. So that can't be falsified. It needs somebody to click, a user to click. So it's an ultimate and true measure. But obviously, it depends on how enticing and your message is, and whether somebody needs that product or service at the time, whether they're going to go and have another look. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So that's a much lower figure. Again, anything over 2 or 3% is good. So don't be disappointed by that. You're probably going to get a few, per 100. Yeah. So give you a sense of it. That's fine. But this is another key reason to use the software is you get this great data that you can kind of use to give you instant, measurement really, and see, well, is that working? A bit like we did, did that subject line work? Was the image right? Are people looking at this? Are they clicking? And if they're not, you can do something about it. Okie dokie. Now, what I'm going to do, I think, I have another slide around more best practices, but I think I'm going to skip that temporarily, maybe come back to it and go to the summary part. I'm just conscious of the time. We can come back to that if we want to, and people can get the slides as well. But just to summarize, do use email marketing as part of your mix. So I'm very clear on this. Advise any organization, any charity, any business, email marketing is an essential feature. Yeah. Hopefully you can see that in terms of, it does things that others can't do as well. It's high on the user agenda. Yeah. Do utilize, the software just does help you massively to kind of manage this stuff. I'm not going to recommend one particularly. There's quite a few good ones. Do bear in mind the good practice points and stick to them, and keep refreshing your mind, and do update yourself on email marketing every now and again. Listen to something, somebody talking about it. Just keep on top of it. It will see you good. It will see you well if you stick to those points. Definitely keep thinking about how you sign people up. Don't rest on your laurels on that one. Keep going on that one, and do monitor and adapt as you're going on. Very much so. So, and last and definitely not least, do remember what the law says. That's important. So I'm going to pause there. Got about 15 minutes for Q&A discussion. And I wanted to allow that time, Hafsha. So anything, any points, any queries on anything?
Jonathan, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. I've learned so much myself on all of this. I'm going to keep a lookout for any questions that might come through on the chat panel. So please, folks, put your hands up or put them in the chat if you've got any questions. Jonathan, I have got a couple of questions from a colleague who wasn't able to attend today, but they emailed me some questions this morning. Yep. So we went to an event recently, and as a result of that event, there's a couple of supplementary questions attached to this, so bear with me.
Yeah.
So we went to an event recently, and there must have been about, I don't know, something like 75 people there. And as part of that, following the event, we have been receiving, it feels like, non-stop emails. But the first email came at 1:50 in the morning. It was a very, very long email, and attached to it were various links to a number of documents. So it was a case of click here to access this document. And I have to admit, by the time I got to the end, I was bored silly. I never got around to clicking on any of the links. So first question is, what is the best time to send out an email campaign? Yeah. And second question is, that was very poor practice. I know that, and I'm not a marketing expert, but what would you have suggested would have been a better way of dealing with that?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, there's a lot in that. Yeah, I mean, let's tackle the timing first. So you've got to start with your audience. So who's your audience? So if it's, for example, professionals that are in public and charity sector who are, I'm going to annoy some people, primarily 9 to 5. I know some people aren't. That's the sort of time to think about. Don't do it on Monday morning when we're all kind of gearing up. If we're lucky enough to have that work model, I am. Don't send it on a Friday afternoon when everybody's on wind down. So some point in the kind of working week, Tuesday morning or afternoon, yeah. So when somebody's more likely to be at their desk, you're going to up the chances of getting spotted and opened. But the same would apply, if your audience is working people, perhaps put something into an early evening pitch. You can schedule content, so don't worry about, so for all of the MailChimp and Constant Contact, and they all enable you to schedule. You might need to pay a little bit to an enhanced feature, but it's sometimes worth it. But you've got to start with your audience. When are they going to be engaging with your email? If you're consumer facing, selling a training course or a product or something, probably evening. Again, not everybody doesn't work in the evening, but that's your starting point, Hafsha. It's got to be, So yeah, whether something in the morning, well, that's okay if you're targeting night workers, perhaps on their break, but probably nobody else. Makes me think, was that person actually up, or were they you know, where are they posting from? That's my other thought on that in the world. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, attachments are a bad idea, because all of the security advice tells us not to open attachments or be very cautious with attachments, and quite rightly so, actually. And you know, long rambling emails. I mean, who likes to read those? You know, everybody put their hands down, isn't it? You know, we don't want to. So, you know, bad practice, as you say, it's just not going to work. The alternative would be to provide links to, you know, a trusted website. Always check the kind of, is this a secure website? Is it, you know, but to give those kind of links to download. But the golden rule, you know, do you recognize the sender? Does it look right? Does it look authentic? And if it doesn't, delete it. Don't open anything. Don't click on anything.
Right, great. And following on from that then, Jonathan, what sort of duration would you suggest leaving between you've sent off your initial one? How much time should we leave before we send off a follow-on or a reminder?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. Frequency. Well, I think there's different ways to look at this, depending on if you're doing something urgent. So I've been recently working with a charity that's been on part of the Big Give, the fundraising. So they've done quite a lot of emailing, not every day, but they did one at the start, one mid and one end. Different content, different subject lines, different images, but to the same audience. And that's proved very effective. So if people see a reason why they're getting communicated with in that instance. But I think when you kind of, if you're looking to, say, get people on a course or get people signed up to a project, I think less is more. And I say that because you don't want to appear, even if you are desperate, and sometimes we've all been desperate, I've got to get people on the, you know, the more you send, the more people, oh, there's nobody signed up to this. So you've got to really think, you know, of your tactics there, you know, and, you know, you can use the, you know, for example, you know, a few places left, but, you know, that you can only use that once, you know, because you can't keep using it, you know. So again, it's down to the subject line. More general frequency, I would say the general view I listen to experts is people don't send enough on email marketing. So there's a study, it was on off the that best practices slide, which is the organizations tend not to send enough. So there's a general view. And in fact, resending to people, this is where it gets interesting. Resending stuff to people that don't open the message is interesting. So resending within 3 to 7 days can increase your open rate by up to 40%. That's what Constant Contact say. So you can use the software, MailChimp or others, to kind of say, resend that message, but to the people that didn't open it first time. So that's an interesting tactic. So we're getting into kind of the detail there. And one thing to think about is and the person telling me, it was the webinar I was listening to, she tried a tactic of the second one going out on Sunday night. Now, it's American. They have a slightly different work cycle. She was explaining the work cycle. But people do kind of pick stuff on a Sunday ready for the next week. So they tend to, Thursday they wind down, Friday's a kind of complete loss in the States in terms of engagement. They wind down, but they pick up on a Sunday. So she was sending stuff on a Monday, Tuesday, picking some people up, and then tried this Sunday. And it proved to be a very effective combination of picking up another layer of people. So
interesting.
Complex answer to your question, and it's kind of, it depends on what your seeking to market.
No, it's really interesting. Thank you for that. Do I have any more questions, folks? Remember, this is the expert that we have here with us. So please, I would encourage you to use the chat panel or put your hands up if you want to ask a question. We have a few more minutes left. Jonathan, just whilst people may be typing away in the chat panel, I have got another quick question for you, please. So again, at another event that we attended recently, somebody asked, next thing you know, I mean, I'll cut the long story short. But basically, we were given a list of all the attendees at the event together with their email addresses for contacts. And I have to admit, in this day of GDPR, and you've touched on GDPR as well, it just felt slightly wrong. And I have to admit, as an individual, I didn't quite like the idea of 100 odd people at this event having my details. And I have to admit, I did sort of think to myself, has there been a breach here?
This is a good question. It's a bit difficult to skip through. I think we need to go and look what the ICO says. It's interesting. My starting point is interesting. Your feeling of it, that you're feeling, is this appropriate? So that's, important before you even get to the law, because actually that's quite a common thing, isn't people? Why has everyone got my email address? I would start with, did they ask? And I've certainly been on things where, can we share your details? And I must admit, sometimes I say no. Sometimes I say yes. It depends. If I'm looking to network, certainly helps. But if I'm just there as an observer, kind of seeing what somebody's up to, sounds, like a competitor, no, I don't want people emailing me. So I think it's down to that, the consent. If the list of people were individuals, so for example, volunteers or trustees of a charities, getting into difficult areas straight away. People's personal contact data is more protected, and that's where probably I'm going to say, we need to look at the legals, but I would share your concerns, I think, without checking. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Jonathan, we've got a couple of comments actually in the chat panel here.
Yeah.
So Michael has said, if you're doing a mail out on a regular basis, what aspects are good to incorporate? E.g., is it click to website, click to email for more info, click for a blog, etc.? How do you maximize the links from a particular mail out?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say by maximizing, don't go over the top. So my experience is single issue mailers can perform very well if the subject line is good and the content follows up. So you've got enough of you've got the good image and you've got enough text to kind of give people a sense of, then going to a website or a landing page or whatever it might be for more information is a good practice model. So the emails are offering a taster, this is what, this is the courses, for more detailed click. Now, that's not a negative. And some people say it's clickbait. No, it isn't. It's giving people a choice of, do they want to open it or do they want to click through for more? Because sometimes you think, oh no, that's not of interest, and I delete. So I'd be wary of putting too much in a single mailer, because what will happen is human nature will kick in. People will look at the first one and often not scroll down. So it will be a very small minority that will look through 4 or 5, stories. I've just been testing this with a couple of clients, and that tends to be the way. So you don't have to, always have a click there, a link there. So if I'm thinking back to the fundraising campaign we just done, the first one was here's a date, here's when the fundraising live, no link. because we're just telling date for your diary, kind of just flagging it up. No, that's fine. When it went live, the link's here. You can link and go on and donate. Obviously, that's what we want people to do. So there's a differentiator. Bear in mind, if you don't have a link, you're going to be limited to know what was the engagement like. So you'll be, the only stat you'll have will be opens. So that's worth bearing in mind. And my health warning on, you know, the open rate's probably going to be an exaggeration in terms of actually readability, you know, in terms of the way that email software handles email. Does that make sense? So preview, and some people have it to auto open and stuff like this, and you accidentally skim on something and you've opened it, well, you haven't really. So think about that. The clicks does give you that real hard measure of, you know, is somebody interested in this? So are they interested in this course? Because you could read on an open, well, not maybe they've looked at the subject, but a click is they've gone and had a look, maybe at dates or the features of the course, the content, you know, potentially, you know, they're going to be more interested. So if you were looking to be kind of a follow-up, those are the people I'd start. And this is where, again, it gets interesting, because you can send a follow-up in something like MailChimp to just people that have clicked. So you can offer them something a bit different subject line, probably a slightly different image, and a bit more different, you know, you can perhaps highlight another feature of the service or course or product, you know. So you're kind of, you know, that would be fine. I wouldn't keep doing it.
That's fantastic. I've got so many more questions that I really want to ask you, and I'm just so aware that I've actually, we've come to 11:30 now. So I am going to email you separately with my questions, Jonathan, if I may, please.
Yeah.
But really, just to say thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Jonathan, today, for just, wow, it's been absolutely fantastic. I know personally I have learned so much. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it today. So thank you. And just a reminder, folks, I'm not doing my email marketing here, but we do have another workshop tomorrow. So please do make sure that you've signed up and do join us for that. And that's linked to this. It's about developing your business plan. And last and least, actually, I mustn't say least, actually, it's the last thing I want to say is, Jonathan, we want to see your Christmas jumper. And of course, absolutely fantastic that is. So thank you so much. Loving it, absolutely loving it. Thank you. Please, everyone, have yourselves a wonderful time and a good Christmas break. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Hafsa, for your very kind words. I do really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming.